Let's take a look at the usage numbers from all the Pokemans from Gen 1 OU in the month of October. And I can honestly say from the bottom of my heart that I am not in the least bit surprised that it's Tauros in the #1 spot with 85% usage rate. Now, that last part did surprise me. 85% usage rate. Do you guys understand what that means? That means Tauros is like literally everywhere. I just did a video on this in Gen 3 OU, and Tyranitar was the most dominant one. That was 46%. Tauros is like double here. So just so you know, this is not a tier list. It's not an aggregate tier list. This is not a win rate tier list. This is literally just a tier list based on usage. Like, this is just all facts, no printer. I did not make this up. This is not my opinion. This is how many times was a Pokemon on a team throughout Gen 1 OU. Just so you know, fun fact. And Gen 1 OU, there was 20,000 battles in the month of October. There's 2 trainers per battle. You take 20,000, multiply it by 2, you got 40,000 teams. Tauros was on 85% of them. It was on about 35,000 teams. It's basically everywhere. You very, very rarely will you boot up a Gen 1 OU Pokemon battle. You could spectate it, whatever. Very rarely will you see a battle where both trainers do not have Tauros. That is extremely uncommon. I actually went through all the formats just now of Gen 1 OU all the way to Gen 9 OU, just looking at the most popular Pokemon. The most popular one's Tauros from Gen 1 with 85%. The second closest was Snorlax from Gen 2. It had 82%. And everything else, it's not even remotely close. Tauros is just everywhere in Gen 1. You can't just play this and not consider Tauros. If you are making a team, you pretty much can guarantee you're going to be fighting Tauroses left and right. It's basically like, it's going to look like Professor Oak's ranch after Ash caught like 30 of those damn things. You are going to be fighting these things all the time. You're going to become a Tauros professional. Why is Tauros strong? Well, the quick answer is nothing is safe from Tauros. Body Slam, Stab. Body Slam is just an overpowered move. Hyper Beam is a more overpowered move. It being a normal type, you cannot be paralyzed by Body Slam. Some of you probably didn't even know that. Earthquake can destroy the guys that would be afraid of Body Slam, aka Rhydon and Gengar. You can have Blizzard for coverage, freeze people, Fire Blast, Thunderbolt, Thunder, yada, yada, yada. Basically, you need to hide your family members and your loved ones because Tauros is going to come and get you. The second most popular Pokemon is Snorlax with 78%. This does not surprise me at all. I sometimes think that Snorlax is actually even better than Tauros because some of you probably didn't even know this, but Snorlax is actually stronger than Tauros. It has 10 more base attack. Its special is slightly lower, but Snorlax actually learns Amnesia. So Snorlax has basically the same exact attacks as Tauros, but more. I would say really the main difference is just Tauros is much faster than Snorlax, which is pretty important. And you having a faster speed stat's pretty useful in Gen 1 in particular because your speed stat is also reflective of your crit ratio, which makes literally no sense to me to this day, but that's what they're doing. So that's a bit of a hindrance for Snorlax. But it Body Slam, Hyper Beam, Earthquake. I already talked about it. Everything Tauros can do, Snorlax can do. And it gets Reflect. It gets Amnesia. It gets Rest, so does Tauros. But I think under the right circumstances, Snorlax is far more disgusting when it's going for Rest. It even gets Self-Destruct, which is like the strongest attack literally in the whole entire game. Nothing can survive that. So that doesn't surprise me. In the #3 spot, we have Chansey at 70%. This also does not surprise me. Chansey is the original Cringe Lord, the original source of my hatred for Blissey in upcoming generations. This was the original stall Pokemon. Thunder Wave Soft Build. It's pretty straightforward. It gets Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, which is good coverage. Oh, you got to ride on? Well, you're going to have to eat an Ice Beam. Sorry, pal. And it even has Seismic Toss, Counter, Sing, Reflect. That one can be kind of wacky because then it's like, oh, well, now nobody can kill Blissey. That's wonderful. So this is just one of the best, if not the best support Pokemon. Well, yeah, I guess it would be the best support Pokemon. You just go around. This is the best thing for basically spreading paralysis and healing. There's not too many things that threaten it. I mean, you got Tauros and Snorlax, obviously, because Chansey's a bit weaker on the physical side. Rhydon, too. If you're a special attacker, dude, oh, man, you are going to have some fun fighting Chansey. Basically, what you do every single time you see Chansey is you have to immediately, quickly paralyze this thing as fast as possible to buy you as many turns as possible. because the battle's going to take forever. So you need to get them to lose as many turns as you can to, you know, outpace their cringe soft builds and whatnot. If you're experienced around Gen 1, this list probably does not surprise you at all. I mean, those first three are basically known as the big three. I usually hear it more as the big four, with number 4 being Exeggutor. Oh, look who the 4th most used Pokemon was. It was Exeggutor. And you might have noticed that the top 6 Pokemon are in a tier of their own. Why did I do that? It's because each of their usage was, give or take, about 10% off from one another. So I thought it was more appropriate to just separate them. So, yeah, number 4 is Exeggutor. That doesn't surprise me. Like I said, it's got Sleep Powder, which, if you are unaware, in Gen 1, Sleep is insanely overpowered. It's not quite a freeze, but it's damn near close. I mean, if you get put to sleep, you might not ever wake back up. And it has Explosion. So, the way I always say it in my battles is Exeggutor basically has 2 kill buttons. It has Sleep Powder and Explosions. The only one that can really do that, so that doesn't really surprise me. Strong Psychics, Mega Drains for Rhydons that want to come in and threaten you. I even one time fought a dude that had a Rest Leech Sheeting Exeggutor, which might sound dumb to you, but they were very high on the ladder, and it was pretty smart because Leftovers did not exist yet. So it would just, you know, just chip heal the whole time and sap your health away. And Exeggutor defensively was actually really good in Gen 1, one of the stronger ones, because it didn't really have any weaknesses. You're thinking, oh, Grass Psychic is terrible, David. Yeah, I know. But in Gen 1, that's not the case. Ghost, no. Nobody's going to click Lick on Exeggutor. Poison, nobody's bringing a Poison type. With Flying, I mean, Drill Peck, that's uncommon. Then you got Bug, Twin Needle. Oh, no, not Beedrill. Don't bring Beedrill. And then you have Ice, which is the most common threat. So if you don't have an Ice type attack, Exeggutor can feel like such a hassle to bring down. It's probably going to cause you a lot of death and destruction. It's going to sleep this guy. It could use Stun Spore on that guy, blow this dude up, Psychic that guy, Mega Drain, Rhydon. It's a lot of pain and agony. It's kind of why it's called the Big Four sometimes. Number 5 is Starmie, which kind of slightly surprised me. I'm saying slightly because I probably would have swapped Starmie and Alakazam right here in terms of power levels. That's just me, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the people are cooking because, well, I would say the main difference between Starmie and Alakazam is Starmie kind of has a deeper offensive move pool, so it has, like Alakazam basically just has Psychic and sometimes Seismic Toss, as I use once in a while, but Starmie has Surf, Hydro Mist, Thunderbolt, Blizzard, Ice Beam, Psychic of its own. And a big reason why Starmie is so high up here, which definitely does not surprise me, is the fact that it has Thunder Wave and Recover. You gotta remember, in Gen 1, Stall wasn't like insanely cringe and annoying as it is in future generations, so the ability to basically not only slow down the opponent, but try to buy yourself a turn by them getting paralyzed as well as you healing, because there's no like leftovers or anything. There's not really any good setup defensive moves. It's just basically healing via soft build or recover. That's huge. That is huge. In case you haven't noticed, Chansey, Starmie, and Alakazam, they all have Thunder Wave and Recover. And then the other 3 being Tauros, Snorlax, and Exeggutor. They don't usually have it, but they can have Rest. And they are some of the best Pokemon at getting away with using Rest and actually surviving. So that's what makes these Pokemon so powerful. They just have such longevity as opposed to some of the ones lower down on this list. But yeah, Starmie right there. Maybe it is better than Alakazam. Number 6 is Alakazam. It was at 39% usage, which is 13% less than Starmie. And like I said, I probably would have swapped them, but maybe I can see it. I think these people are onto something because Alakazam, it is faster than Starmie by a little bit. It's stronger than Starmie by about 35% from the special stat because it's 135 special over Starmie's 100, but then you give up type coverage and you're just kind of pigeonholing yourself into just using Psychic, which is very predictable because you can just, the opponent could send in a Chansey, an Exeggutor, a Starmie, their own Alakazam, whatever. Like, they know what you're going to do. You can't really threaten them any other way. And Starmie is actually physically tankier than Alakazam too, which is pretty useful for 2 certain Pokemon are running around the format that you might see every now and then. And I've tried using Reflect on Alakazam before, and it's all right, but then you forego a move slot for that, and then you're still pigeonholing yourself with just using Psychic. And then you have to switch. You could just get paralyzed, so that whole speed, advantage you have over Starmie is kind of irrelevant when you're missing like a quarter of your turns anyway. So I guess I could see Starmie being more popular than Alakazam. It's also worth noting that the top 3 Pokemon are known as like the big 3, and then sometimes it's the big 4th Exeggutor. But I personally think it's the big 6. It should just be called the big 6, and I feel kind of vindicated right now because Alakazam and Rhydon, there's about a 10% usage gap between those two. So it should just be the big 6. I mean, Starmie and Alakazam are kind of like Chansey because they can paralyze stuff and just recover. And that is a very, very valuable asset because recovery was not very strong in Gen 1. So if you have a Pokemon that can do it and it's already strong in its own merit, I think that's huge. So yeah, I think it just should be the big 6. You could slap these 6 Pokemon on a team. You have no idea what you're doing. I'm not saying you're going to do good, but I am seeing your team is good by default. Moving on to the next tier of 30 to 20%, you got Rhydon at 29%, Gengar 27, Zapdos 24, Jinx barely made the cut, being barely over 20. Rhydon in the 7th place, being barely out of the big 6, kind of makes sense because it's a very good situational Pokemon. It can be very, very strong. If you can spread paralysis throughout the whole enemy team, well, now Rhydon can kind of take advantage of that with just throwing out a million earthquakes. You no longer can safely switch in this thing. Like if you paralyze the opponent's Starmie, that thing, it can't just come in on your earthquake. It'll die to 2 of them. Rhydon's just that strong. And plus, because you're a ground type, not only do you have access to the strong stab earthquake with your high attack stab, but you're also immune to Thunder Wave, which happens quite a bit in case you haven't noticed in this generation. Thunder Wave is a pretty important move. Rhydon doesn't have to deal with that nonsense. That's cool. And then you got Gengar, which doesn't surprise me. Gengar is most commonly seen. I mean, I swear every time I see this thing, it's always in the first slot. And it's usually not a big problem for me because my lead is usually Alakazam, so I just paralyze that thing or, you know, crit it with Psychic because I'm the better player. But it basically hits the field, and it is the fastest Pokemon in the game at using a sleep move. Now, the sleep move is Hypnosis, so it's not the most accurate, but if it connects turn 1, I've already talked about it briefly, but that's basically like a soft KO. And this thing gets... It has a deep move pool. Psychic, Thunderbolt, Mega Drain for Rhydon, Confuse Ray, so you can have a fun time. Explosion. So, yeah. The main selling point, though, is that Hypnosis. And then you could just save it later as like a bomb, like quite literally a bomb. And switch it in on like a Body Slam or something and then just blow them up. Zapdos, I do think it's good, but I thought it'd be a little bit lower. Like right around where Jolteon is, I think makes sense. I'm surprised it's ahead of like Jinx. But I mean, Zapdos strong and has, you know, the strongest stab Thunderbolts. I believe its special is 125, so nobody really likes taking that. But, you know, you got some people that can eat up, particularly Chansey. But yeah, but the problem with Zapdos, in my opinion, the biggest problem, I think it's just Rhydon. If they have a Rhydon, it's just like you take like 2 steps back. You know what I mean? They're going to completely wall you and do a ton of damage back to you. So that's a scary thing. And then you have Jinx, who I thought would be a bit higher right where Gengar is. Because it's not as fast as Gengar, but it has Lovely Kiss, which is more accurate than Hypnosis. And it has access to 2 stabs, unlike Gengar. Gengar doesn't have any stab. Jinx has a stab Blizzard and a stab Psychic, and that's really good type coverage. The only things that can resist both of that is Starmie and Slowbro. And if you have a Slowbro, Jinx will easily just outspeed you and put you to sleep. So that's fun. Now we've got only 2 Pokemon from 20 to 10% usage rate with Cloyster and Jolteon sitting down here. I used to kind of sleep on Cloyster. I did, but in recent battling experience, because I do Gen 1 OU battles from time to time. Dude, this thing, it's actually one of the better responses for, believe it or not, Tauros and like Snorlax, because it has such a massive defense stat, and it can have Rest. It can outspeed Snorlax entirely and just go for Clamp. That is a trapping move if you are unaware. Generation 1 trapping moves are insanely broken and stupid, and this thing gets Explosion, Stab, Blizzard, Surf, whatever. Yeah, kind of underrated, I guess. I'm still not the biggest fan of it, but when the opponent has it, because I don't usually like to carry Jolteon or Zapdos because of, you know, Rhydon. But if you don't have that and then they have a Cloyster, it can be kind of annoying. Like, it can blow up these important pieces. It can hit Exeggutor with Blizzard. It can just rest up on Tauros and the other guy. It's a lot of pain. And then you got Jolteon, who is relatively speaking, in terms of all the relevant Pokemon, it is the fastest Pokemon in the game. And has a pretty high special, not quite as high as Zapdos's. But it's just that Rhydon that kind of scares me, because I'd be using Jolteon all the time, as you guys know. But I don't think I've actually recorded a Gen 1 OU battle yet with me using the goat on my team, because I'm just terrified of that thing. Jolteon's just going to get hard walled. But don't worry, guys. See, Zapdos had a leg on us because it has Drill Peck for Exeggutor, but Jolteon's got Pin Missile. But I don't like how it misses. So Pin Missile turns into Piss Misses. Pin Misses. That's like Piss Misception right there. Now we've got 10 to 5% usage with Slowbro right here being in the lead, which is so bizarre to me because Slowbro literally a few months ago was OU. I don't know what the hell happened. People just lost faith in Slowbro. I was using this thing on my OU teams because I was like, oh, it's OU. I mean, that makes sense. You just go for Amnesia, double your special, and then run over everything in the metagame. But I guess it got demoted because Slowbro, it was like a hacks machine, basically. You could just paralyze it. It doesn't move. You could put it to sleep. You could trap it or whatever, blow it up. It crit it with a Thunderbolt, what have you. And then Slowbro, all its hard work went down the drain. I'm guessing that's why it's UU now. I actually used it in Gen 1 UU when it was in the ROA Spotlight. Bro's a monster down there. But yeah, it's no longer OU. As a matter of fact, there are no more OU Pokemon that we're talking about. The last one was Jolteon. So moving on, we have Dragonite. This thing, if you see this thing in OU, I promise you it's going to be clicking Thunder Wave and Wrap. It's probably the most infuriating thing ever because Wrap is more accurate than Clamp from Cloyster, and it has Thunder Wave, so it just paralyzes you, and then it just makes it so that unless it misses, you are never playing the game again. So it's very stupid. I hate it. It's dumb. Just know, if you see Dragonite on the other team, that's what they're doing. I'm just letting you know. It's happened to me a few times, and my hatred grows for it. Then you have Articuno, which I think is very high for its, like, that's so, like, I mean, I love Articuno. It's one of my favorite Pokemon, but, like, what are you trying to be? You're trying to go for an agility so you can outspeed the Thunder-waving, trapping Dragonite? There's a lot of problems for Articuno, like, literally all these guys up here. Maybe it's because it's one of the best Pokemon in the game at fighting Exeggutor, I guess. But, I mean, you have Jinx up there, and you got Blizzard with that thing and Lovely Kiss, so I would not really recommend Articuno. And then you got Lapras, who I thought would have been better because it has Confuse Ray and stuff, and it's tankier. And then you have Golem, which is basically outclassed by Rhydon, but not necessarily all the time because Golem has Explosion. Rhydon does not learn that. So if you can spread paralysis on the enemy team, Golem can just delete something. You know what I mean? If you got Earthquake, obviously, for Gengar, which will one-shot that thing. And, you know, Rock Slide for Zapdos, whatever. Like, it hits insanely hard. It's just that it's, you know, it's just like Rhydon. But Rhydon's base attack is much higher, so that's why people prefer Rhydon. But Golem has that bomb. Literally, it's a walking, talking bomb. Okay, now we're entering some very obscure territory. We got 5 to 2% up next. Just to let you guys know, I've used Slowbro. I've battled Dragonites before. I don't really ever see these three. So moving forward, this is all like, you're probably not going to run into these guys. Up first is Persian. This thing is one of the best UU Pokemon. It just comes in late game, click slash, kills everything, pretty straightforward. Although you are going to get hard walled by Gengar. It's not very useful here because you have the big three, which are far superior normal types, so Persian just gets outclassed there. But then you have Victory Bell, who in my opinion should be a little bit higher. I think it should be like right behind Dragonite. Right between Dragonite and Articuno, but I don't know. I mean, let me know what you guys think. I mean, you have Razor Leaf with your Victory Bell, so Starmie's going to die. Rhydon's going to die. Cloyster's going to die. Your Slowbro that went for 3 Amnesias and is ready to sweep my team, well, that thing's going to die. Lapras isn't going to appreciate it. Golem dies. So it can just literally delete some Pokemon out here. And then it has Sleep Powder, which deletes Pokemon. And then another thing which is so annoying is it has Stun Spore and Wrap. So it's basically like a Dragonite. And Victory Bell's attack is surprisingly high. So, yeah, like it feels like anything can get threatened by Victory Bell. And I guess people don't really respect it. I do. I'm scared of that thing. Thankfully, people are sleeping on it. They're not really using it, so you ain't got to worry about it. Maybe it's not so popular because Slowbro has fallen to UU, so that's one less Pokemon for, you know, Victory Bell to destroy. So since that's one less Pokemon needed, you know, to stop Slowbro, then you probably won't be bringing Victory Bell as much. That's my theory. Don't sleep on Victory Bell. I don't even know why that thing's NU to begin with. It should be at least UU. That's just my opinion. But what do I know? Then you have Venusaur, who's right behind Victory Bell, which I think makes sense. I think Victory Bell is the better out of the two. Victory Bell, by the way, it can literally get Swords Dance and Hyper Beam. Yeah, so Venusaur. Did you know that Venusaur does not learn Stun Spore? Venusaur does not learn Stun Spore. It does not get Wrap, so it's kind of straightforward. That's why Victory Bell is kind of better. Then you have Charizard. Oh, by the way, Venusaur is PU, which is even lower tier than Victory Bell, so I guess technically speaking, Venusaur is the most underrated Pokemon on this entire list. Then you have Charizard, which is an NU Pokemon. And what was interesting is when I did my UU tier list, I didn't really know where to rank the fire types. They're pretty similar. But what's funny here is Charizard's the most used fire type in OU. And I bet it's because whoever was using this Charizard, I bet what they were doing was spreading paralysis to the enemy team. And then they bring in their Charizard, and then they go for Swords Dance. And then they got, you know, Fire Blast, Swords Dance, Earthquake, Hyper Beam. That was probably what they did. So I could see that working. Then you got Hypno, who I believe was the best UU Pokemon within the, you know, the formats. So it's basically, it's just kind of outclassed by Alakazam. It's slower, but it's much physically tankier. It gets Hypnosmith, but at this point, there's a million other sleep users that you're better off using. But that doesn't really surprise me. But yeah, man, I think Victory Bell should be higher. Victory Bell should be like one tier above these guys. These guys, I can understand why they're over here. We have now reached the end, ladies and gentlemen. This is where it gets freaky. This is the Shadow Realm right here. I have almost never seen these Pokemon, like almost at all. So up first is Pinsir. I would imagine, I've never seen this one. I would imagine what people are doing is they spread paralysis, they bring in Pinsir, go for Swords Dance, Hyper Beam everybody, and call it a day. That's their game plan. Next up is Electro, which I think makes sense. I mean, not quite as strong as Jolteon, but you do have Explosion, which kind of sets you apart because you are literally the fastest Pokemon. So that is an advantage. You can kind of just come in safely, blow something up. Perhaps Electro should be a little bit higher around here, I think. Like just a tier above it. Then you got Gyarados, who is a jack of all. You know, Body Slam, Hyper Beam, Surf, Hydro Mist, Fire Mist, Blizzard, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, whatever. It learns everything. It just can't really stay alive. I don't really think it can. I mean, if it gets hit by a Thunder Shock, it just dies. So I think you're better off using a Starmie. Then you have Machamp, which is kind of interesting to me that it's this high up. Like, I get that a million other Pokemon are better, but at first I was like, why? And I realized, you know why? It's because of the big three. Machamp can just come in and stomach a hit from them and go for a submission, which is, and I don't like that. That's why I would never do that, but that's respectable for whoever's trying to do that. But that's most likely what their game plan was. I've never seen Machamp, I don't think, but they must be just trying to kill those normal types. But the problem is, you know, 4, 5, and 6, you know, numbers 4, 5, and 6, they're all psychic types. So Machamp's going to have to deal with that. So it's just in a stinky situation. They did the fighting types dirty in Gen 1. By the way, Machamp's a PU Pokemon, and Nidoking's also a PU Pokemon, so these guys are very low tiered. Nidoking, it's kind of like a Gyarados. It's sort of a jack of all. I think its job is kind of getting stolen from it by, I would say, Rhydon being the premier Earthquake user, which, as I've already talked about, very, very good. But, you know, Nidoking can also, it has other attacks too, you know, Thunderbolt, Blizzard, so it's pretty versatile there. That's kind of more theory crafting stuff. I've never really seen it in use, so I don't know how that would go. Then you have Arcanine and Ninetales side by side. What's funny is in UU, Ninetales was the only UU Pokemon. In other words, Ninetales, in terms of the tiering system, if you didn't know, Ninetales is the highest tiered fire type Pokemon in the entire game. Like Arcanine and Charizard, they're both NU. And I think it's because Ninetales has Confuse Ray, which is kind of funny because Charizard is more used than this Ninetales here, and Arcanine by a little bit. So I don't know what's going on there. Then you got some normal types here. You have Clefable, who is, it's kind of like a Chansey, but the big thing is at this point in time, Clefable did not have Soft Blow. They got that cringe move later on, so it's not really going to be as reliable as Chansey. And then you have Walmart Tauros. Excuse me, I said Kangaskhan. What's the point of bringing Kangaskhan? If you have a Kangaskhan, you also have a Tauros. So you would never pick Kangaskhan over Tauros. Raichu is up next. Raichu, I think, is slightly underrated because it has Surf. So remember I was talking about Zapdos and Jolteon earlier. Their biggest threat is Rhydon in terms of relevant threats that you'll actually probably run into a lot. But if you hypothetically had Raichu, you would just get rid of that instantly. They wouldn't even switch in their Rhydon. They'd be too scared. So that's an interesting thing to think about. Dugtrio is very fast, and it has Earthquake. It doesn't hit insanely hard, but it is very fast. That thing is very good in UU. Then you got Raticate, another normal type. It's just like a Kangaskhan. This is actually Walmart Kangaskhan. This is an NU tier Pokemon. Body Slam, Hyper Beam, Super Fang, whatever. And then you have Walmart Chansey right here. Dude, this thing barely slipped into the usage thing. This thing also has Thunder Wave and Recover. When I did my random battles tier list, I put Porygon in top tier. My opinion has not changed. In random battles, this thing is insanely annoying, but because, you know, it's a higher level over there. Over here, when everything's just level 100, Porygon just has really bad stats, so it's going to get cooked. But then, this is something. Oh, God. This is scary. There's a freak out there, dude. They're using Kingler. Whoa. Well, I don't even want to talk about that. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you guys want to see me talk about a different format, let me know down below. And I will see you later. Take care.